Okay, thank you. Senator McLachlan.
Yes, my question is for the Minister. Given the public comments by the New South Wales Deputy Premier about walking away from the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, does New South Wales actually have the capacity to leave the plan? Or the ability?
Senator McLachlan, and I'll invite Mr Thompson or others, because these questions have been asked before, to reflect on advice and limitations there. The Commonwealth's view, and it's been tested in the courts, is that the Water Act was passed under very strong heads of powers, that obviously the Basin Plan has come into operation and passed through the Parliament and withstood legal scrutiny on the way through as well. There are provisions that we just discussed with Senator McAllister that if New South Wales fails to fulfil its obligations under the Water Act and the Basin Plan, the Commonwealth could step into that space. But there's a legal question, and then there's a practical question in terms of the effectiveness of all that we do and what the consequences of a state walking away are. And those practical questions are ones that that it would be best for all parties to avoid seeing come into play, that even if legally there is limited capacity for New South Wales to stand in the way of now full implementation of the Basin Plan consistent with the Water Act, the practical implications of who would then be responsible for running the river systems, ensuring enforcement, all of those other factors would be very real concerns that would, at the very least, heighten the degree of risk and difficulty in delivering the Basin Plan, if not create real impediments to its effective implementation. But Mr Thompson or Co can add to that.
Well, I think
from the legal perspective,
down to the New South Wales Deputy Premier is being a petulant child.
Yeah, well, Senator Patrick, I'm in a diplomatic portfolio.
I understand that, and you do well at that.
I bring my diplomatic portfolio hat here with me as well.
I'm a crossbencher.
Well, I think the Minister gave a good and comprehensive answer, Senator. Some of the answers to questions that we gave before clearly indicate that we're engaging actively with New South Wales in terms of implementation of the Basin Plan. Some of the consequences of that around failure to provide water resource plans we've touched on, and there are provisions within the Water Act to remedy that if it gets to that, but we are still actively working with New South Wales on these issues.
Thank you. I think an important point to make is, were a state to make such a rash step, it would be worse for everybody. It would create uncertainty, it would increase risk and cost across the basin. The Commonwealth has been clear about our commitment to implementing the Basin Plan, and the worst of all outcomes would be one where a state refused cooperation and created that uncertainty, and that we had to take a range of additional steps that would come at financial cost to the Commonwealth, but also at heightened risk and uncertainty for water users, communities and the environment in terms of how the plan would be effectively implemented from there. So that's why we are taking every step possible to make sure we keep all states at the table and to get them to fulfil their obligations under the plan.
Just on that, can I, as a supplementary, the New South Wales Government basically were refusing to supply the water sharing plans. Mr Glyde, you said that they've now made a commitment to do that. To the department, is the Commonwealth still withholding funding from New South Wales until those plans arrive? I think the Minister announced that.
Minister Littleproud certainly made public comments to that effect, and as I said earlier in some evidence, Senator Patrick, we're briefing Minister Pitt on that issue, and he's in discussions with Minister Pavey on those matters.
I just congratulate the government for making that decision.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Senator Sheldon, I understand that you have a block for about 15 minutes, so we'll plan to break about 11:05.
Good, thanks very much, Chair. Good morning, Minister, the Department, Mr Metcalfe. I wanted to talk to you about the issues around Inspector General, the Murray Basin water resources. And I want to talk about the integrity of the system that's been put in place. Now, where is the bill? There's a bill that's being proposed, of course, to give power to McKelvey to, I'll use the words that put a tough cop on the beat. That's the words used by the Minister Littleproud. Where's the bill up to and to finally empower the Inspector General?
Matthew Dadswell, Assistant Secretary, Murray-Darling Basin Policy Branch. So the department's been working with the Minister on preparing that legislation, and it's expected to be introduced this year.
This year? Is that this year next sitting, or is that this year, later this year, or is it?
I think in the coming months, Senator. But that'll be a matter for the Minister.
Minister, will you be able to clarify when the bill's, is the bill a couple of months away?
I'd have to take that on notice, Senator Sheldon.
So an issue, they must be able to answer whether there's an intent to have the bill this year, or is it next year, or is it on the?
Well, I think the officer did say in the coming months already.
So you expect that would be accurate?
Well, based on the advice provided by the officer at the table.
Thank you. Yep. What consultation has been taken with the states in relation to the bill?
Senator, it's been the subject of discussion at a range of senior officials and at the last Ministerial Council meeting on 17th of December. It was discussed and consulted there. And there's been a number of meetings in which the department and the Inspector General Task Force have been engaging with states and talking through the scope of what the powers may be.
I'm just going to table a letter from the Minister David Littleproud to Terry Butler MP, and in that letter the Minister explains that as of the 1st October, as we're all aware, that Mr McKelvey, highly distinguished former police officer in charge of the Federal Police, so the most senior officer, highly respected, to become the interim Inspector General. In that correspondence, I'll just ask if the letter can be...
Yes, everybody on the committee's